In 1881, Milton Hershey returned to his hometown after two failed attempts to open a successful candy store. Left with no money, Hershey approached his uncles for another loan to start up a new business. But instead, he was turned down, insulted, and kicked out of the house. At a time when chocolate was seen as a luxury for the rich, Milton Hershey would leave that house to create the largest chocolate manufacturer in the world, and in doing so, making it affordable for the masses. This is the story of how one man became the face of the chocolate industry. Milton Hershey was born on the 13th of September, 1857, in Derry Township, Pennsylvania. His parents, Henry and Fanny Hershey, were poor farmers who lived from hand to mouth, mostly due to his father's failed business endeavors. When Milton was 2 years old, his father sold the farm to chase the oil boom in Pennsylvania. At the time, oil was quickly becoming a necessity in the lives of Americans, and those who discovered it were becoming rich overnight. Henry recklessly spent all his money for the next 2 years digging for oil, until he found himself broke with no luck, leaving the Hershey family in extreme poverty. Around this time, Henry's wife, Fanny, was now pregnant with their second child. Her two brothers traveled all the way to Pennsylvania to check up on their sister and little nephew. What they found when they got there was beyond shocking. Their sister Fanny looked weak and lifeless, as well as her 4-year-old son, Milton, who had been starving for days. The two brothers spoke with Henry and offered to help the family if he gave up his oil dream. Henry reluctantly agreed, and the family moved to Lancaster, where the brothers gave them a farm to live on. On their new farm, Milton worked alongside his mother to raise chickens and sell eggs, while his father planted trees and experimented with dams to stock fish. However, Milton saw how the relationship between his parents crumbled and became even worse when his father abandoned the family to fend for themselves as he left to pursue yet another scheme. When the winter of 1867 came, the cold was so severe that it became very difficult to keep the Hershey farmhouse warm. Both Milton and his little sister, Serena, caught a severe cold, and while his mother tried everything she could to restore their health, his sister worsened until she developed a terrible fever. It was at this point that Fanny realized that what her daughter had wasn't a cold, but scarlet fever, a deadly disease that claimed the lives of thousands of children at the time. And Serena was no exception. At the age of 4, Serena Hershey passed away. This tragedy proved to be a turning point in Milton's life, who at the age of 10 made up his mind to do whatever it took to make a better living for himself and his mother. And so, a short while later, he dropped out of school and started along his journey. In 1871, at the age of 14, Milton landed his first job as an apprentice for a local printer, Sam Ernst, who was the publisher of a German-English newspaper. However, Milton hated the job. He found the work itself to be boring and was often yelled at by the owner, who had a bad temper. To make matters worse, his father had put him under contract with the company for 5 years. After just a few months, Milton was fed up, so he purposely threw his hat into one of the printing machines, causing it to break down, and was immediately fired by his boss. To his surprise, his mom supported his decision. She saw that the printing job was her husband's idea, and a poor fit for her son's future. She came together with her sister Maddie and got Hershey another job at the Lancaster Confectionery, owned by Joseph Royer. It was here where Milton would get his first taste of the candy business. Candies, at the time, were created by experimentation and with traditions passed down from generation to generation. Recipes were very vague, and many of them were not even written down and had to be reproduced by memory. As a result, the owner didn't trust young Milton with such a complicated process, and instead assigned the boy to wash dishes, take orders at the counter, and deliver ice creams and treats to their customers' houses. Milton's mother, however, knew that if her son was to succeed, he needed to learn the trade of the most profitable and long-lasting products the shop offered: candies. She insisted to the owner that he excuse Milton from his other duties and only teach him how to make candy. She even offered to personally pay the owner for this, to which the owner finally agreed. Milton was happy. He immediately fell in love with the trade and soon discovered his knack for mixing ingredients and making sweets, and later learned how and where to buy ingredients, as well as setting prices. He became familiar with a wide range of sweets, such as caramels, fudge, and peppermints. His father, on the other hand, disapproved of him and would often tell him that candy making was a woman's job, but Milton paid no attention to his words. While his father left the family once more to seek fortune in Chicago and Colorado, Milton spent the next 4 years working for Mr. Royer, learning the ins and outs of the candy business, and after gaining confidence in his knowledge and expertise, he and his mother agreed that it was time to open his own shop. The only problem was, the money Milton had saved up over the years wasn't enough to open a confectionery store. Luckily, his auntie and uncles had his back and loaned him $100, which was enough for him to open a business. With their support, Milton Hershey was ready to open his first shop at the age of 19. However, it wasn't going to be easy.